So, 4 steps of the back handspring. Bend, fall, stand. That was so awkward. Hey guys, what's going on? Coach Lane here. I'm with my girl Lexi. We're at Fusion Elite All-Stars in Hollister, California. And today, we're gonna break down how to do a back handspring. So step 1, when I am teaching a back handspring, the first thing I like my athletes to understand is their shapes. There are 2 important shapes that you're gonna hit. Go ahead and step right here. 2 important shapes that you're gonna hit through your back handspring that's actually gonna carry your body through the motion. The first of those is the arch. Now, when you arch, you allow your chest and shoulders to open, right? You don't wanna put weight in your back, but you wanna allow the back to open up so you're getting a nice arch through the back. The second shape is the opposite, which is the hollow shape. When we're doing these 2 shapes, you don't want to think about what the back is doing. More so you want to think about what the torso is doing, right? From the rib cage. So for an arch, we want to open the rib cage, right? Boom, just like that. And for your hollow shape, we close the rib cage and we round out the back. Those 2 shapes are what going to get you from your feet to your hands and back to your feet again. When I'm teaching my back handspring, I like to teach 4 important steps, 4 key steps. Number 1 is the bend. The reason I say bend is because teaching a sit in the back handspring, Lexi, if you can demonstrate what a sit looks like. Right, now it's funny because I told her to sit, but she's still bending. Because if she were to truly commit to a sit, go ahead, do it. Boom, that's exactly what happens every single time. Great job, kid. So if you were to sit, your brain would do what you've trained it to do every time you've told it to sit. There's only 2 times in our normal day when we sit, right? That's in a chair or on the toilet. And in neither of those situations do you jump off of your feet halfway through your sit. But if we're telling you as a coach or as an athlete, you're saying, okay, I need to sit into my back handspring, you're saying, I'm gonna be caught by something halfway through this motion. So you put your weight in your hips, your heels, and you start to fall backwards. That's almost like somebody's forcing you into the fall. Instead, what we want to focus on is bending. Bending gets your weight in your thighs, your knees, and your toes, which is a more accurate representation of where you're going to be taking off in your back handspring. Step 2 of your back handspring is going to be the fall. Now, when you're in this shape, I like to call this the lightning bolt shape, right? So we're bending, our weight is in our thighs, knees, and toes. And from here, we push our toes down into the mat and force ourselves into a fall. Now, the very difficult thing to do when you are falling is to allow yourself to fall, because we're taught from a very early age to catch ourselves and be very uncomfortable falling. The brain hates falling. The first thing that it's gonna do, what it's gonna do to try to protect you, go ahead and bend again and just let yourself fall. You're gonna get to your tipping point and, oh, you trust me way too much. You're gonna get to your tipping point, and normally what would happen is if I were to let her go, she would step back to save herself. Every athlete who is watching this is gonna be your natural reaction. So instead, what we wanna do is recondition our response to the discomfort of falling, right? So we wanna make sure that our hips follow the same line as we fall. Go ahead and fall. Good, and we hold this shape the whole way back. The other thing that's really difficult to do is to force ourselves into our toes instead of allowing ourselves to rock into our heels. So step 2 is the fall. Bend into that lightning bolt shape, keep the weight in the thighs, knees, and toes, and then push the toes down to initiate the fall, holding that shape as you fall back, keeping the weight in your knees and your toes, because step 3 is the stand. Instead of saying jump, I like to say stand to make the distinction between the 2 motions. So if I ask Lexi to bend her knees and stand up so fast that her feet leave the ground, what that ends up looking like is a jump, but what it becomes is a more centralized, focused jump where all of that explosive power is going into the same impact spot. So whatever direction she decides to stand up in is going to be explosively pushing her in that opposite direction. So for you athletes who are frogging in your back handsprings, for you athletes who are bending your elbows, this is going to help you get a more explosive stand so you can get your hips over your shoulders and make sure that you're joint stacking when you're upside down. So at this step, what Lexi's going to demonstrate for you guys is jumping just to her hands, hitting that arch shape in my arms. Ready? Let's actually take a step forward. There you go. So we bend, good. Fall by pushing toes into the mat, and 3, 2, stand. Beautiful job. Now you see here from just that takeoff, she was able to get her hips over her shoulders, and now she's in that perfect arch shape, head's neutral. Great job. Go ahead and walk out. Beautiful job. It's really important that you get that concept where you push off the toes and you get the hips over the shoulders every time that you're taking off. So you really understand it doesn't take too much effort to actually do this skill. It's just a matter of getting familiar with the uncomfortable because the skill is already designed to succeed. Step 4 is going to be changing shapes, the shapes that we went over at the beginning, to achieve the back handspring and come out of it. Another common issue that I encounter all the time is undercutting in the back handspring. And a lot of you athletes watching probably suffer from this issue. Undercutting is when your hands land as close to your feet as possible when you jump back into your back handspring, right? We also call it teardropping. One of the ways that this ends up happening is when the athlete fails to fall. Falling is not just to help the back handspring execute properly the way it was designed, but it's to give you distance in your skill, right? A back handspring should take up space. Undercutting usually happens when an athlete bends and drops her chest, swinging to prepare to swing into her back handspring. If you noticed, my 4-step process does not have a swing, and that's intentional. The main reason for taking out the swing is because when you're first learning your back handspring, a lot of athletes tend to drop their chest and make their shoulders the first thing that reaches back going into the back handspring. A proper back handspring will lead with the hands and won't need the chest to drop so far. The chest should not be involved, the shoulders should not be involved in actually reaching and taking off with the skill. So to avoid undercutting, we take out the swing when we're just learning the motion, and then once the motion is shown to be fully comprehended, can be repeated all the time, and I'm talking weeks, maybe even months, sometimes years. Once an athlete can demonstrate her back handspring without swinging, then we'll go ahead and we'll slowly start integrating it back in. But by now, she understands the swing happens from the shoulder blades, pinching here, keeping the chest elevated, falling from this position as well, fall back. And then once she has reached her tipping point, that's when she leads with the hands, getting her right back into that shape that she was in when she wasn't swinging. So what we're gonna do is jump into that same arch, and we're gonna change shapes 3, 2, 1, and get you to your feet, yeah? So let's actually come up here, and we'll go to the other black line. And bend, fall, 3, 2, stand. Beautiful job. And 3, 2, shape. Good, bend the knees. Great job, let's do it again. That's really difficult as someone who can already do your back handspring, right? For those of you watching, Lexi is a very accomplished tumbler. So having to back up and do this with a spot is probably really off-putting. Here we go, bend, fall, 3, 2, stand. Beautiful job. 3, 2, 1, change shapes. Good job. So, main thing you want to focus on when you're going from the feet takeoff to the hands and then transitioning back from hands to feet is focusing on changing shapes in that torso. One of the things you can do, you can have someone stand next to you, or you can do this in a doorway. You can practice opening up the chest and then using your arms, changing shape in your torso to push forward back into that hollow shape. The other thing you can do your cat-cow shape, right? Where you're just focusing on that rib cage. So we open up the rib cage, stick the tummy down, arch the back, and then we push right back up into angry cat. Boom, round out that back. This is where you need to isolate your movement. So doing something like this in an isolated fashion is gonna work wonders for when you're actually changing the shape full through. So 4 steps of the back handspring: bend, fall, stand, and shape change. We're gonna show you all 4 steps really quick all the way through. Fall, 3, 2, stand up. There it is, gorgeous. I hope this has been helpful for you guys. Please drop a like or a comment. Let us know how well of a job Lexi did. She's an amazing tumbler. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have a comment or a question, drop it below, like, subscribe, all that for more videos like this to come. I'm working really hard to give you guys the value that you've been asking for. So in the meantime, I'm Coach Lane. This is Lexi. We're at Fusion, and we'll catch you guys on the flip. Peace. Thank you so much, my friend. You did a great job.